Joe, what's going on, man?
Hey, hello, welcome. How's it going, Adam?
It's good, man. I'm not gonna lie. I did not sleep well, and so in the one way, like I always think you got to be, show ready, and you got to put that behind you, and you got to get to work, and the fact is, it's early, and the coffee's happening, and it's cold everywhere, as we've seen from the comments. But some mornings you just want to stay snuggled up in the covers a little bit more than usual. Today was one of those days, but
I'm shocked at that, Adam. I'm shocked because I am super excited because we have a guest today. That's
right.
I'm very excited. So, but yeah, I'm. How about the rest of the week? Was it a grind or a good week or what?
No, it's a good week. Sold snakes. You're probably not as in tune with it, but there's this existential dread throughout the community that the market is dead and you can't sell anything and you should get out and blah blah blah.
Really?
Oh, big time. Oh, huge. We should do a whole show on it. But
and it's like is that like a perennial thing, or is it?
No, this is like. So, well, like I said, we could do a whole winter on it. So there's basically, yeah. So basically, there's the pre-COVID reptile industry, and then three things happen, maybe a lot of things happen. People were spending a hell of a lot more time at home and they were bored, so they had time to dedicate to a new hobby, a new pet. They had
starting podcasts and gathering.
That's snakes. Right. Yeah. All these podcast people popped up. And then, but there was, so then, we were getting, checks. But on top of the checks, you couldn't go out. You couldn't go to the movies. You couldn't go to a bar. You couldn't go to concerts. So, and most people kept their jobs because of the payday, the PPP loans. So there was more money flowing through that wasn't getting distributed, and people bought reptiles and ball pythons. And so the industry boomed. People were getting rich. I mean, people were buying and selling ball pythons and making 4 or 5 figures, just boom, overnight. And the other thing that was booming was crypto. That was like crypto's first spring.
Right.
So yeah. So I mean, people were taking Bitcoin, buying 5-figure snakes, trying to flip. It was the Wild West, man. Anyhow, all that's gone away, which is healthy because it's not real. And what's happened is that now people realize you got to work and it's hard, but have no fear. I sold 4 snakes yesterday. How about that?
Really? 4 of them?
Mm-hmm.
To how many? So to the same person?
Yeah, to the same person. And I got a couple. Sorry, I keep looking at my phone. I'm going to turn my damn phone off. But yeah, inquiries are good. What's amazing, it's kind of like the if a tree fell in the woods and nobody was there to hear it, does it make a sound? If I'm selling to pet owners that have no idea that it's a tough market, is it actually a tough market? You got to get out and go work for it. Some of this is a self-fulfilling like prophecy. What's the Mark Twain quote? The reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated. Like reports of the death of the industry they're greatly exaggerated. Keep doing the work, guys. We're gonna be okay.
Interesting story about Mark Twain, and it's related to
many actually.
I wrote a sketch for a like a what do you call it? Reenactment for like Civil War reenactment. And well, it was this sketch where Abraham Lincoln meets Mark Twain on a train. And I played Abraham Lincoln as kind of this, and Mark Twain helps him to write the Gettysburg Address.
Okay.
And it was funny. We did it with a friend of mine, a mutual friend of Jay's and I's. We did that, but we can move on from that. Maybe he can bring it up. I don't know.
Who played Twain?
Twain, a friend of ours, Denny, who's a bit He was a bit older, but he has, this white hair and this beard. And
oh, good. All right. I was hoping you could hit me with like your best Mark Twain accent off the cuff.
No. I played Abraham Lincoln as kind of this bumbling fool, which was opposite of what he was.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say there seems to be yeah.
But I play a good bumbling fool. That's the
I'm right there with you. I heard a term that I didn't know was a thing, which to your credit, you're living in a world that you didn't know was a thing. You do this for me once a week, so that's cool. Called LARP, live action role play. And apparently okay, there it is. Yeah, I didn't, I knew that there were those reenactments, and then like we had a gig at a Renaissance fair one time. Man, that's a deep well of interesting content right there. Geez, get your popcorn and Diet Pepsi, man. Like kick back and enjoy
those things are really fun though. I mean, there was one where I grew
up. You have to let your guard down. Like you got to like get into it. Oh, and Minneapolis has one. I swear to God, you got to Google it. I didn't realize it. They have one that's like 6 weeks long. Everybody's like, yeah, we'll be at the fair. And I'm like, oh, the state fair? And they're like, no, the Renaissance fair. And I'm like,
I mean, Tampa has one. Tampa has one that I usually try to bring the kids to as well. Well, when they were younger. But I mean, it's kind of strange because like part of it is like, hey, kids, you want to throw these axes? And that you throw axes around and you're shooting arrows. It doesn't seem like
no
it's
limit. Yeah, like it's like they're like, they're like, oh, you guys are an Irish band, you'd be perfect for the Renaissance fair. It's like, I don't know that the Renaissance hit the Irish countryside, especially not the punk rock scene. But hey, you're gonna write the check. And we're like on this. The stage was like decorated with like a fake forest and all. I'm like,
I'm not sure accuracy is the point of it.
No, it's not. That is purely optional.
Maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe I'm insulting the LARP community, and I should be a little bit more sensitive.
That's the thing. I gotta watch it. Rick from Creative Corolofus, he's from here in Minneapolis. Rick, what's the story? Like, give me like, what's the story on the Minneapolis Renaissance fair? Am I lying? Does it go like 4-6 weeks in the summer? Anyway, comment in there. Couple cool things. First off, this shirt is the reigning undefeated heavyweight champion of my t-shirts. It's the best broken in, the fit. It's wonderful. That's Bod's Exotic Reptiles. I'm sad.
I love Jeremy.
He doesn't make this shirt anymore because it has 4 colors, not the one color. And when you're printing shirts, that jacks the price up, and it's the broken in heather. But I'm worried, like I'm wearing through it, man. I've had this for years, and I'm breaking it in. But I got this one. Look at this thing. They're gonna see you coming. That's from Trevor at Ball Labs, and this is the first time I'm seeing this. Look at the size of the QR code on the back. Like you can, you get people to come to it. And I like the touch. Look at these sleeves.
It's all right. So that's all right. I'd like to see that on you.
Yeah, I gotta wash it and break it in and all that. Sure. So I was gonna wear it today. It's pretty loud.
It's pretty loud, which is it's a little extra for you. That's what I would say. I don't know if it's your style, but it's a cool shirt.
Oh yeah, well I have no style, so that's fine. It's a void waiting to be filled. That's Trevor at Ball Labs. He says that's a one-off custom shirt. That's the only way that it is. So anyway, I'm gonna wash it. I'm gonna get it broken in. I will wear it at some point, but it was too early in the process.
It turns out the Minnesota Renaissance Fair is literally out of this world. It's a must-see.
That's what I've heard, man. And yeah, Rick says it goes 6 or 8 weekends, man. It's crazy.
You should go. And
I'm going to go
because I love those types of things. It's really fun.
well, and people watching is at the top of I love going to airports just to watch people. So it's the most extreme emotions you could find. People haven't seen each other in months, running to each other, joy, lose their bag, absolutely pure devastation. Everything in between. It's great. Couple really quick things. We got a guest, so stick around, guys. First ever guest on Proper Cup of Joe. And Joe, Joe doesn't know I'm going to say this. I like this because I think Joe kind of humored me to start this, and then he kind of got into it. And this is a new level. He was like, you know what, Adam, we need to have a guest. I was like, oh, look at Joe doing programming on the content. This is good. So, yeah, we have a guest.
It's a little selfish. It's a little selfish because we have our own podcast too that we're recording new episodes for this coming in the next coming months. And we want to see. I'll explain it to you, but we want to see if there are other people who would be interested in listening to that besides the people that we intended it for. So there's a whole thing. I think with this show and our show, we want to kind of see if it's interesting to people who aren't really engaged in that community.
Well, so in fairness and a little bit of transparency here, I'm glad that you brought somebody that has some experience talking into a microphone and in this space rather than just like, here's a buddy. He'll be fun to hang out with. No, you know what I mean? This is good. Oh, look at that. Jeremy and Holly, they say, did you undo it? No, there it is. What's the hair club from? I'm not only a sponsor. I'm not only a spokesman. I'm a believer in their Snakes from the Memories. They make coasters. It goes right under my coffee every morning. How nice is that, right?
Very nice. Very nice.
Speaking of sponsors, guys, check out Kreative Genetics. That's Keith out in Fresno, California. Keith is working with the Stranger gene in a variety of recessive projects. He's got it in VPI. He's got it in Clown, and I believe he's got it in Hypo as well. And there's a variety of combos and codoms that he has in there as well. So if you're interested in Stranger combos and ingredients for your Stranger project and recessive projects, get in touch with Keith at Kreative Genetics. His link and information is down below in the description. And I own snakes from Keith. That's what I love about the sponsors. I get to talk about people that I actually use their stuff. This is wonderful. This is good. And I'm using one of his studs this year. A Clown VPI Xanthic male is really, really, what would I say? Injecting life into my projects. There you go. Think that one over. So go check out Keith at Kreative Genetics. Also, how cool was this? Desiree was on Snakes and the Fat Man this week from Cold Blooded Cafe. Go check out that episode. It was a great episode. And Desiree, you can learn all about Desiree and Cold Blooded Cafe and a lot of the things that she talked about, producing all the rodents in-house. There's this narrative that Cold Blooded sources rodents from other places. Their rats are all in-house. They do source ASS from other places and quail, and those are from boutique breeders, I would say. But none of the lab animals, lab rodents, do not come through Cold Blooded Cafe. Chinese container ships of rats, no, not a Cold Blooded Cafe. So go see the difference. Use the promo code PROPER11. You're going to get 11% off of your order this year, and I can't promise it's always going to be the case. They're running a really good sale right now, and that promo code works on top of the sale. Proper11, give it a shot at Cold Blooded Cafe. Joe, I made a blunder last week, and that's an understatement. Look, I had seen all the tributes to Brian. I legitimately thought he had passed when we spoke last, Joe, but he actually passed away this week. And I'm sorry that I misspoke on that topic, but my sentiments remain the same. What a special guy to our industry. And that's an understatement. One of the most important people to our industry. We also lost Tiffany, wife of Stan at Sea of Serpents. They're from Palm Coast, which is just outside of Jacksonville. And guys, if you get a chance, I think that there's still a GoFundMe set up. Check out Holly's podcast from last night. They did an auction. Even if you want to buy anything, like I don't need to buy any more snakes right now, but you can throw a couple coins in the jar, so to speak, to help out Stan and his family. So I hope peace finds both of those families and all their friends that are affected by this. So rest well, and thank you for those memories, particularly from Stan and Tiff. They were pretty special to me. So sorry to report that news, but such is life in our community. Sometimes none of us get out of here alive, they say. So here we are.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad you brought it up. And, my sentiments are the same as last week as well. I mean, it's really incredible to actually be a part of a new community, and then to know that you're a part of that this community has been around for a long time. And so you're kind of enjoying what the people before us have put together. So
big time.
Yeah,
he had 4 million followers. TMZ reported it. I mean, I didn't realize the reach.
Wow.
So
wow.
Speaking of sending out some blessings, man, Jeremy and Holly are off to a home inspection. I take it that means that the sellers took their offer. I hope so. Anyhow, they're in the exciting process of buying a house. They moved from like Okeechobee area, Florida, to Indiana. And I'm only sharing this because they put it out there publicly. It's not anybody's business, but it's kind of a fun story and I can relate to it. They rented a place, moved their whole collection, rented a place, and now they're in the process of buying like the perfect home. So I hope that they find it. Exciting times.
Yeah, that is definitely.
Chris had a good update here. Rest of the auction is going tonight again at 7:30 on Ken's channel. That's LMK. I think it's LMK Reptiles, LMK Exotics. Anyhow, keep an eye out on Instagram, guys. There were so many good things donated that they had to do multiple episodes of the auctions. So
wow. Nice.
Yeah, I mean, you can only have engaged people with auctions for, I mean, what are you gonna do? 5 hours? Like, you're going to be like, what's the Jack Nicholson? He's frozen in the snow. You're like, okay, let's put it to another night. So still a great opportunity to help people out. And to, again, even if you don't buy something, you can donate. So there we go. Let's get on with the show, Joe. What do you think, man?
Actually, so you mentioned this. So that's from The Shining. I actually turned on something last night because of your suggestion. I watched the first 20 minutes of Gangs of New York last night.
Oh, the opening scenes are so good. They're coming out from underground, right?
Oh, yeah, it's great.
He cuts his cheek and out the when they go, no, cinematically, when they come out of the underground layer into the light, it's just blast white, the music hits, and then the club just right into I mean, it's really violent scene, but it's so good, man. It's I could watch the first 30 minutes of Gangs of New York endlessly.
And speaking of people who have acted like historical figures, I don't know if you want me to share this, Adam. Adam sent me a picture of him dressed as Bill the Butcher.
Do you have it? Can you pop it up? It was pretty good, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. It was incredible.
Maybe I could hang on. I'll get it. I could pop it up, I think. Let me see. I know. We'll circle back to it. Yeah, it is worth sharing now.
Yeah. Great. And the rest of my week, I actually went to see the Eagles get smashed by the Buccaneers. I brought Aiden and I dressed up in all Eagles gear. I was booed out of the stadium. It was quite the experience, but it was a lot of fun. It was the only solace to the Eagles losing terribly, but yeah.
They got toasted, man. Going to see the band, the Eagles, would have been better than that. And I'm not into the Eagles, man. That is
here we go. There it is. see.
Oh, I got it too. I think. Here.
I mean,
yeah,
that looks exactly like the guy in the movie. It's incredible.
That's me, man. I was feeling it. You know, I that was a little LARP. That's what that was. A little live action role play, right? Am I using that properly? Here we go. Adam is Bill the Butcher. Boom. Did it show? Oh, it showed. Yes. There it is. Pretty solid Bill the Butcher, right?
That is,
I even had an
incredible.
ascot. I learned what an ascot was that day. That's a little neck scarf, a little neckerchief. All right, let's go, man. What do we got here?
All right, so yes, we do have a guest, and he's been waiting patiently. So now it's been 20 minutes since the start of this show.
Gibberish, right?
Yes. And this is the idea here, because I think the idea of this, us doing this, was to. You told me a few months into this, you wanted people to be people outside of the community to be engaged in this show as well. And I felt like, oh my goodness, I'm not pulling my weight. Why don't we just invite somebody to come on to the show who is as curious, as inquisitive, as respectful of new experiences as I am. And why don't we just force the issue and have somebody come in? And so I decided, well, let me ask my my old friend, my good friend we met in 8th grade. So we've known each other for 30 years, 32 years, maybe. Jay, who has, like I said, we've done a podcast together. And so I asked him to come on the show and maybe just talk about, his curiosities about this this community.
Rock and roll. Let's do it. And I like that our show is still evolving and that there's a bit of a experimental side to it. I mean it. This is where good creative ideas happen and where they come from. And I do a show on Tuesday nights that is like super on point, has to be about ball pythons or reptiles and business. And this is a little bit more like somebody that was interested in reptiles that saw my Tuesday night show would be like, I don't understand that language. I don't understand what they're talking about. This is a really high mental barrier of entry. So I want this show to not be that. That was kind of my yin to my yang kind of thing. So why don't you do the honors, Joe? I'll press click and bring him on. Give Jay a little intro and let's get him on here.
All right, Jay Wilson from let's see, Watertown, Massachusetts.
Bam.
Welcome. He's in his attic in Watertown. He's a good guy. I don't know. I've known him for so long. I don't really know what to say about him. Jay, how you doing?
I'm fine. I'm glad you could remember the name of the town that I live in. It took you a moment there.
I know. It took me a second though.
I'm glad we remembered to bring you on. We've made it through about 45% of the show, so we're getting here. We're getting.
You've done all the heavy lifting for me.
Well,
so
don't worry, you're going to get your share right now. Yeah.
So Jay and I have a podcast as well. Jay, what is our podcast and who do we intend it for?
Our podcast is called Crimson Sheen, and it's a podcast. It was sort of a COVID project that I think we're hanging on to because we liked it. So we started pretty hot and heavy, and then we fell off a little bit, and now we're bringing it back a bit. But essentially what it is, it's Joey and I, or Joe. Sorry. I don't know if you guys know.
Joey. Hang on. Let me take some notes. I need to. I'm very pleased with this.
This is how close Jay and I are. Only my family calls me Joey. And Jay has been around, like, he's great friends with my brother and my sister, my mom. So he calls me Joey as well. Yes.
I'm going to be working on the graphics in the background real quick. I got to update the name of the show and a little Go ahead. Continue. Point A, Joey. Noted. Got it.
So Joey and I, here's what we do. We have conversations with people that we graduated high school with over 25 years ago, most of whom we haven't talked to in 25 years. And it's kind of about just having that shared experience together and like what we can kind of recall and just the different perspectives that we had on it. So like what high school was for me, obviously it wasn't for you or it wasn't for somebody else, but we were all in the same high school. So it was kind of how we're all seeing those different perspectives of the same thing. And then it's also fun to like figure out where they went after high school, because a lot of people we just lose touch with. You know, we didn't have Facebook coming out of high school. I mean, you may have caught up 10 or 13 years later, but
right. Yeah, we were that generation that I was just talking about this on the Tuesday night show. Like, we grew up with rabbit ear antennas watching the Wonder Years, and 10 years later, Facebook was evolving, and you know, card catalogs went away, and Dewey Decimal, nobody knows what that is anymore. But when we started college, that's what we had. So that tail end of Gen X is supposed to have a pretty solid superpowers. Like, we can hang in a world with no internet if we have to.
Oh yeah, we're versatile.
But yeah.
And we also, you know, so most of the people who listen to that show, though, they are people that went to high school with us. And that's really who we intended, kind of the intent of that show. Actually, we kind of joke that, you know, the only people that listen to it is our parents. So, and I don't think they listen to it.
I would say, if it makes you feel better, my father has no earthly idea. I mean, I tell him, he has no interest. No, he's like, that's okay. But sounds pretty good.
It kind of gained some steam with the people that we went to high school with. And we get comments like, oh, it's great, you know, just to hang out with you and hear you know, what happened to folks and things like that. But we also grew up in a cool place. We talk about that place. We talk about growing up in a small town.
What was the name of the town? I actually don't know.
We went to Stroudsburg High School, Stroudsburg in Pennsylvania. It's the heart of the Poconos. And we talk about, there's a great little town right next door, Delaware Water Gap, which is you know, if you're from New York or New Jersey, you see it on the signs on Route 80 going west. So people kind of recognize that a little bit. We talk about that, and we talk about just growing up in a small town in the 80s and the 90s, and it's kind of nostalgic. And we're kind of you know, wondering if that's interesting to people who don't know us. So we kind of wanted to get a little bit more exposure.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I found is there's an interesting thing, for lack of a better word, that happens. But between YouTube and Google, I like YouTube because you got Google on your side. Like, they go find the people that are interested. I'm lucky that most of the people that are in the audience, I know most of them, but I know them through the show and the podcast and reaching them that way. Not I'll meet them in person sometimes afterwards, but most of the people that I know I've met through the podcast versus the other way, and them coming through a personal relationship. Yeah. So this is not a joke. It'll sound like a joke. It's not. Inquiring minds will want to know, do you have audio only distribution? See, there's this big, like, manufactured beef and slap fights of podcasters and Reptile, more than you know. Like, we're talking pro wrestling caliber beefs here of nonsense among podcasters. It's crazy. But do you have audio only distribution? Because there are people that would say Adam doesn't count because he doesn't have that. I'm going to. They've pushed me into the corner. I'm going to put out all 155 episodes everywhere you can find podcasts. But do you guys have audio only distribution for Crimson Sheen?
Yes, we are solely audio.
Wow, you're way ahead of me. There are going to be people that are like, "See, Adam, you're just goofing around in your basement, and these guys are the real deal."
We're only audio. We don't have any video. And actually, we were just talking last night that maybe we should do video. And actually, doing this with you, Adam, we haven't done an episode since what, too? Like
we did a We're Coming Back episode about 2 years ago. And we never came back.
Did you? Yeah, I was gonna say,
and
did
then we
you
never
ever come back?
recorded.
Said, get ready.
Anticipation.
It's like the
like
longest
the build.
cliffhanger. Yeah, people are
Long
just
build.
they've fallen off the cliff at this point.
And then geez, yeah, here comes the laughter. So Beguile Reptiles says, Jay, how many snakes do you keep? So among the content in the slap fights is like, oh yeah, you shouldn't have a podcast because you don't have snakes. Like it's sorry, that's my pro wrestler bro voice. Yeah, they're gonna just wait for the comments. There are all sorts of inside jokes about these slap fight feuds. Okay, that's the first question. Second question. I don't even know what this means, but I hear it's important. Do you have an RSS feed?
I don't think so.
As far as I know, to have that distribution, you do. So I think you're ahead of me on that too. Yeah.
Maybe.
You can find, I mean, I don't know what an RSS feed leads to, but you can find it. You can find it on Apple. You can find it on Spotify. You can find it anywhere you get your podcast. So it's the code address for distribution. So all those platforms go grab your RSS feed. Yeah. So we must have that.
You have one.
Yeah.
But I was confronted with the question, and I was like, I don't know. I don't think
have
so.
one and we didn't know. So there you go.
Jay just throws a bunch of money at it, and then it goes everywhere.
Make this work.
Joe,
literally just cash thrown at it.
I think this is an honest offer. I think you have your first honest offer that somebody is willing to send you a snake if you would like to.
Well, I'm
yes
just
or no?
realizing
Thumbs
this.
up or down?
Me?
You, my man. Yes.
Yeah, I got to talk it over with my significant other.
I can tell you how that's going to go. I'm not trying to big time you, but I've known Chelsea a bit longer than you, and I don't feel like that's going to work out very well.
I'm just recalling this though, Jay. You did keep. You had fish. I
thought you were going to say Jay had a reptile. I was like, man, this is an undercover agent, man.
No,
you did have an aquarium though.
I had multiple aquariums growing up. I was very into the aquarium, terrarium kind of scene as a kid.
What'd you have in your terrariums?
Mostly plants and turtles and crayfish and stuff like that.
It's right on the edge. I mean, it's one more.
We're everywhere, Joe. Yeah. I mean, turtles, we're right there. They're like snakes with shells and legs. They're right there. I mean, really close.
Yeah. I was very into it.
Go
ahead.
But what is your background, Jay? Let's just I know it. I've forgotten it, but I know it. What is your background? What do you do? What did you study? And where are you now? And what are you doing?
A quick I guess my background. I think what we're trying to get at is that I have a degree in biology. I was really into science as a kid, and I got a degree from college.
Punnett squares, man. We can geek out on Punnett squares if you want.
Yeah, we can. You know, it's funny. We can get back to that, but yeah. So I went to school. I got a degree in biology, and then I went on to. I thought I was going to teach biology, and then I ended up actually in the pharmaceutical industry. Not like coming up with drugs, but I'm very good at making the drugs after somebody else figures it out. So more in the manufacturing side of things. And then I took a break from that, and I bought a jazz club, and I did that for a long time.
Really?
So I'm still currently an owner of a jazz club, the oldest continuously running jazz club in the country. And then I came back to the pharmaceutical industry, and that allows me to do extra things like do the podcast, or I have a little record label, and I do some other little side projects. But as far as science goes, should I stop there? I'm sure I could see. Looks like you have questions already.
Oh, this is great, man. Well, so I mean, I'm a musician, and I have close ties to the Benedetto Guitar Factory. Howard Paul. Okay. Yeah. I've been to their factory. I've done shows and dinners with Howard Paul. He looks at me because I'm not a jazz guitarist whatsoever. I'm more of a rock and roll guy, but seeing his eyes just about pop out of his head when I'm trying to play, blues and rock riffs on a $30,000 Benedetto it's pretty fun. It's one of my of my favorite, a good memory of that. So that's real cool, man. That is it sounds like a fun. I have this strong philosophy that we only get one shot at life, so we may as well take the opportunities that we have. And having a career, having a jazz club, and good friends like Joey sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about snakes. We got a little bit of time left. Why don't we talk a little?
By the way, I'm wide open. We can go over whatever you need. I'm good today. So I don't know if I know you got a job to get to and all that, but I'm pretty good today.
I want to ask Jay. I asked Jay, what do you have any questions? What are the burning questions that Jay has coming on to this show?
My first question, and I'll give you a little background. One of my internships in college was at the Pocono Wildlife Rehabilitation Center.
Oh, cool.
And we cared for a variety of animals: possums, raccoons, bobcats.
I like how possums was at the top of the list.
Yeah, well,
possums come to mind.
It's funny. Yeah, they were pretty. We had a skunk that was really cool. But we had a huge raptor cage, and we got a lot of raptors. So one of my main jobs was breeding mice as feeders for the raptors. So I was wondering if you guys did something similar.
Yeah, I was going to ask you where you sourced the feeders for the raptors. So I have, and now I'm new to this. I had sworn off for years that I would ever breed rodents. I had this. First, I have an allergy. I'm wildly allergic to rats, and I can't. Anyway, so I'd sworn that off. I had this whole spiel and equation of my time versus value. It was cheaper to buy them. I am sponsored by a frozen rodent manufacturer, breeder. That's weird to say when you're manufacturing animals, but anyway, there's a whole industry of bulk frozen rodents that we can use in this industry. However, ball pythons can be a little bit picky about what they eat, and most people don't realize, or we don't think about it because it doesn't confront us daily. There's way more than one species of rodent in the world, and we know this, but especially so there's rats, there's mice, and then there's a third one called an African soft fur, and it is a multi-mammate. I learned this. This is what differentiates it from a rat. It has extra nipples, and it is designed by nature to produce a ton of babies. It has litters that can have 15, 20 babies in it at a time. And ball pythons love African soft fur. Like I said, they're not rats, they're not mice, they're just African soft furs. So I raise those. I do breed and raise African soft furs. I have about 40 colonies of 1 male to 3 females in these racks. They look like this, but they're in a different facility. Those are outdoors in the rodent shed, and I do raise those. And I was wondering about the raptor facility because my ASF breeder in Jacksonville, before I was breeding my own, he had talked about supplying just what you're talking about, a raptor. It was like a falconry club. I didn't know that there were people with falcons just zipping them around the skies, but there are, and they have to eat too. So that's the food chain sort of options all in a nutshell right there.
So do they, I know you're very much into breeding the rodents, or no, the pythons themselves, but do you ever play with selective breeding of the rodents themselves, or no, they're just food, so that doesn't
just food. The only part of selective breeding I do actually, and I'm early into the rodent game, so some of this is hearsay rather than perfect and then personal experience. You can, in theory, breed the ASFs for temperament, and taking rodent bites is pretty low on my list of things that I want to get into. So the biters go right into the feeder bin. They don't get bred anymore. Pull those out. Bye-bye. You could get albino. So the red eyes, I actually feed those off. They look cool and they're neat, but they have a lower, albino to albino causes some genetic problems, and they have, basically they have lower productivity. And as much as I hate to say it, production is important. And so then we also breed for size. I like the larger. The nice thing about an ASF, a rat can get too big for a ball python to eat. So if you're breeding rats, your breeders, there comes a point you don't have anything to do with them. You got to find somebody with big boas to eat them. And so then you're stuck with these breeders that can't breed, and honestly, they've had a rough life. You can euthanize them and freeze them, and then you end up with a freezer full of jumbo rats because you don't have a falconry club to give them to. So ASFs never outgrow what a ball python can eat. And so the big ASFs are nice because they produce big litters and they're great adult ball python food. So that's the ASFs.
Do you, just because I'm not sure, let it rip. So for some animals, actually, no, for every animal in the raptor cage, we didn't serve live. We cervically dislocate the mice just prior to feeding. Do you do the same, or do you feed live to the pythons?
Okay, so to get really deep into my this isn't usual. I am atypical in a lot of ways, but I'm atypical this way. I feed only my hatchlings ASFs. So the hatchlings get, the fuzzy babies, basically. We call them hoppers. They're one stage past fuzzy. Their eyes are open, their ears are perked up, and they're ready to be ball python hatchling food. My adults,
they sound cute. They sound too cute to actually feed to a ball python.
You know what?
Just the way that you described them.
No, my wife won't go into the rodent room, and it's not because she's disgusted by them. She won't go into the rodent room because she'll fall in love with them, and she's a total animal lover. We have this dog is 11 years old, Baxter. He has his eyes have been removed. His teeth have all fallen out.
So cute. Oh,
he's awesome, right? Yeah, that's Kelly. That's Kelly in a nutshell. Her love for animals. So not that Kelly has no eyes and no teeth. That's not Kelly in a nutshell. She loves this animal. So they are cute, but no, Jay, I then feed I change them over to eating frozen rats.
Okay. Gotcha.
And frozen rats are very reliable for me, not to go into, just advertisement mode, but I believe in Cold Blooded Cafe. They're who I use. It's a reliable source. I don't have to scramble. Temperatures dropped and I didn't get a litter of rats and now I don't have food. None of that. That's done. But also to your point, from perhaps, and I don't want to debate the ethics of feeding something its natural prey and whether it should be alive or not. It's a natural prey. That's fine. But those rodents can fight back. And what I don't want is a rat's front teeth going into my snake, defending itself. So all of those things combined, I prefer to feed frozen thawed to my adults. But to ensure that they get eating and they get going, those little ASFs are like Tic Tacs for snakes, man. They love them. They or Skittles or whatever candies people like. Just bad analogy. So that's what I do. So the other part of it is a business endeavor. So the ones that I don't use, I'll sell those to other feeders, to other breeders for food.
Gotcha.
So you have to thaw them before you feed them.
Yeah, you bring them up to temperature. I aim, 98.6 is a sort of a natural temperature, but I found that around 107, 108 really incites a good heat signature and a good strike response for the snakes.
And how do you thaw them? You thaw them like, you thaw a chicken, you just leave them out on the counter, or you put them in the microwave?
Don't microwave them. That is bad. Don't microwave them. You do not want exploded rat all over your microwave, and thank God I'm not saying that from experience. But don't microwave them. No, I actually use the same kitchen principles that I learned. I thaw under refrigeration, so the day before I'll do my count and I'll do my in the restaurant we call it pull thaw. Hey, we think we're going to be this busy tomorrow. We need this many steaks. Same thing with I'm pointing here. I have a big stand-up freezer right here. So I'll pull the rats the day before. I'll move them into my thawing fridge. I have a little dorm cooler refrigerator. Stick them in there. And then the little, I can't adjust the camera. It's so farther over. Right over here, I have a little oil register heater. And what I do is I stick them in a plastic tub, like a big Tupperware Rubbermaid kind of deal. Put the lid on it, make a little Dutch oven, and stick it right on top of that oil heater. And that brings them up relatively slowly. You don't want them mid-rare. You don't want them charred on the outside and frozen on the inside. You want them warmed all the way through. And then, you kind of get good at it. And people don't like feeding frozen thawed because they say it takes a long time if it's all that you do, you get the system down really fast. So it's always been all that I do. My wife really, and I myself have trouble. I don't have an issue, but I have trouble feeding a live animal to another live animal. So frozen thawed eliminates that concern as well. So
is there, did you, so that where you put it in a tub and you have the heater and everything, is that something that you learned from the ball python community? That's something that you took from your restaurant experience.
The ball python community heats them, but that specific way on the oil heater that's an Adam innovation. I'm not saying it's not rocket science. A lot of people could have come up with it, but that's what I do. Yeah.
I do want to bring this up because there was a comment on our show last week about how the person kind of seemed like they wanted to start an argument or something with you.
That's weird, right? That would happen. Yeah. Okay.
It's strange. And part of the comment was, Adam, you're not teaching, I think it was in quotes, teaching Joe, the ways of the ball python keeper.
Yeah. I was like, man, I'm just sharing what I do, man. I'm not teaching Joe. Yeah. If you want good fodder, guys, go read the comments from our past shows, man. It is, I leave them up there. I don't take them down. Like you can, you can draw your own conclusions.
And I want to say, I'm smart enough to realize that one person telling me what they do is not what everybody does. That's why we have the chat. That's why we engage with people over here. So
I suppose I should have a banner that says, this is my experience, not my expertise. Do with it as you will. And if somebody mistook me for anything but that, thanks for the compliment, and I'm sorry I let you down. But no, you're right. It was not in good spirit. There was nothing constructive these folks were saying. Like the comments here, great, live feed ASMR. Sure, they eat live in the wild. They don't get a warm plate of food. Exactly. I get it. I'm saying that's from my experience. That's what I do. We're all allowed to have our own perspective. Cool. No problem. It's not that people aren't allowed to disagree with me. It's when people come with horrible intentions, screw them. I have very little patience for that nonsense.
Right. Any other questions, Jay?
I kind of want to know, if I wanted to get into this game, right? Because eventually, I want to start building my own tanks and kind of getting back into that.
Oh, cool.
I've always had that dream, but I don't know what I'm going to put in it. Is there? So we have a friend, right? And Joe knows him, and he will learn one thing and then crank it up to 11. And so he wanted to ride perfect example. He wanted to ride motorcycles. He goes out and takes his test. He gets his license. He reads everything he can about motorcycles. He goes to a motorcycle store and tries to buy the most expensive Ducati he could ever find. And the guy refused to sell it to him, because he said, if I sell you this bike, you will kill yourself. And he never got a motorcycle. So is there a version of that, in the pipe, or do you have to start small and work your way up? Or is it free reign? How do you jump in, or what's a good entry level way to do this?
Okay. empathize with your friend, because Joe will tell you I have my own little rabbit holes I go down, and I'm currently in one which is called the world of ball pythons. I'm in a room with 160 ball pythons here.
Right.
I've left my job and my career. I started my own company and blah blah blah. So I get it. I'm glad that your friend is alive though, and not on the Ducati.
Yeah, I didn't make that connection earlier though. You're making a connection, but Adam is very much the same way. Although maybe there's a little more follow through. once the Ducati is denied, the other person, goes.
Now that's debatable, which is better though, because sometimes it's better just to get a swift kick in the ass and not do things. But anyway, and I'm biased, of course. I actually think ball pythons are a great entry-level reptile. They're docile. Their biggest challenge is they're kind of an on-off switch. They're a pain right up until they're not. And by that, I mean, once you get your temperature and humidity dialed in, and once you learn how to either feed, heat the food up or feed them live, what path you're going to go down. Once you get it, they're easy, they're beautiful, they're fun. You can get them in an incredible number of patterns, colors, contrasts, and it's still evolving from a biological standpoint. There's been about 200, we call them morphs, but basically dominant and recessive genes that have been identified and isolated. And the combinations that you can breed for using that variety of genes is astronomical as far as the number of permutations that you could get. But also new genes are being discovered constantly. And there's a slew of minor genes that are very subtle and do very sort of almost unnoticeable, unperceptible things. But every year, 2, 3, something big comes along and it's like, whoa, that is a snake that is a bright orange striped snake. We've never seen that before. Mm-hmm. So we're in the middle of that.
Right. I mean, right now the future is brightening allelic combinations. Really,
you nailed it. There you go. That is exactly right, Joe. We're going to look for brightening allelic combinations. So see, Joe has this, I gave him like a script. I'm like, if you ever stumped in a conversation, you just have to, all you do is hit him with a heartfelt, I think the future is really brightening allelic combination. I screwed it up. So I like that. From what you're talking about, though, I will say there's better animals for the display terrariums. I'm not sure the technical term for it, but in the hobby, we call it bioactive. So you would have isopods in your dirt. We joke that you feed your dirt, and then the dirt keeps the poop clean and all of that, and it becomes this beautiful life cycle, or sounds beautiful. It can be challenging to keep clean and all of that. I myself, again, from my restaurant background, when I hear bioactive setup, I think of nothing but a bacterial cesspool. And it can be done. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it can't be done. The upkeep and the part that does need to remain clean, because it can go from a healthy bioactive to a bacterial cesspool so fast. So I use these tub setups. It mimics the burrows and the termite mounds that ball pythons inhabit in the wild. It helps with humidity. It helps with their own security. Ball pythons are pretty naturally skittish. They're not built for getting away fast. They're not built for fighting. They're built for laying there, grabbing a rodent and then laying there. So they like to feel secure. So 4 sides of a clear open display makes them feel pretty vulnerable and skittish. They don't eat that well in exposed terrariums, but they have PVC enclosures now that are basically plastic terrariums that are enclosed on, if you think of a rectangle or a cube, there's actually 6 sides to it, top and bottom, and then the 4 sides. They're all enclosed except for front display. And those actually, the ball pythons fare really, really well in those from a pet keeping standpoint.
Right.
But I enjoyed. Oh, go ahead.
Are they like a manipulatable animal, like I know they're not going to be a cat that you're going to like cuddle up on the couch with, but is it something you just observe, or do you actually interact with?
I interact with them.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would say the best word I've come up with is that they can be conditioned. I don't. There are people that do, and I'm not, they're entitled to it. My experience is that they are not going to be excited to come cuddle with me. I don't think that that's the relationship that I have with my snakes, but some people do. But I think that they're beautiful. I think they could be given a good life. They can be interacted and conditioned to realize that I'm not a threat, that I'm not food. They don't need to strike at me. Mine are handleable, and I interact with I change out all these tubs twice a week. So that's a lot of interaction with the animals. So I do interact with mine, and I really enjoy them. It's not just I never set off to be a factory. There is a production mindset to it, especially from a business standpoint, but I'm lucky that I get to, it's like the jazz club. Oh, are you doing it just for the art? Well, no, I got bills to pay. I got a roof and, lights to keep on and employees to pay. So yeah, you can have the appreciation for the art and you can have a business with it. And that's how I see ball pythons as well for me.
Right. Have you ever been struck? Like, does that,
oh
is
yeah,
that a thing that happens? Yeah.
It does. Yeah. It's largely with the hatchlings. They see a heat signature, their instinct says strike. So the hatchlings are terrors, and then actually they're not. That's dramatic. You get bit by hatchlings fairly often, it feels like sandpaper, but adults very rarely. I know the temperaments, and I won't say personalities, but I know the temperaments of my snakes. I have 2 or 3, but honestly, I have a snake hook, but the only thing I use the snake hook for is on feeding nights. I open the tubs with the snake hooks. Again, conditioning. I only feed at night. So if they sense activity and action in the room at night and the tub opens, they're striking food. So I use the hook. I use the hook to open the tubs. I couldn't tell you when I handled a snake with the snake hook.
Right.
I handle them with my hands otherwise.
Gotcha.
Huh. Well, I mean, we've talked about this on the show before, but I mean, there's various reasons why you would want to have a snake, and one would be as kind of like as a pet or a display, and then there's this breeding element though that's business. And I think one of the things that I've learned is that when you go and buy a snake, you should have kind of a good connection with the person who's buying the snake from you. And that's something that Adam tries to do. That's something that I've learned that Adam does, is really make sure that there's, the person that he's selling to is going to take care of the snake. It's going to is ready to own a snake like that he's going to sell to them. And as a buyer, I think it's good to know, is the breeder taking care of the snake up until that point as well. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, thank you. I do like to do that. And I like to be, I don't necessarily, there is a little bit of a gatekeeper to, yeah. I mean, like your friend with the Ducati, like there's some people I'm like, man, I'll help you. I'll get you there, but I don't feel comfortable selling you a snake today. And usually they don't want to hear that, and they go on and they go to somebody else. But actually, the lady that I sold the snakes to yesterday, she's a repeat customer. But honestly, how that sale happened was I was just checking in with her. Hey, how the snake's doing? You get them settled? You get them feeding? And Jay, from a biological standpoint, you probably get the idea here. A ball python generally won't eat if it's not feeling secure and it's not healthy. If it doesn't think it can digest, if it doesn't have the right belly heat to digest, it's not going to eat. If it feels threatened, the snake is the most prone of ever that it's going to be when it has a rodent hanging out of its mouth. It can't strike, it can't get away, it can't anything. So generally, if they eat in captivity, it's a really good sign that you have good things set up and good things going. So I usually check with people, hey, is your snake eating? Yes. Okay, that's good. Hey, is it shed yet? When it does, is it in one piece or is it in, just tatters? If it's in one piece, you probably got your humidity right. It's probably really comfortable. If it's in tatters, let's work on bringing up the humidity. It's not the end of the world, but it's better. It's an indication that you got a little tweaking to do.
So hang on a second, and we're up against the 8:30. But if it's not humid enough, why will it not shed one, like one.
Well, it'll try to shed, and you'll get a condition that we call stuck shed, and it essentially it turns into a scab. It starts to rot. It can be their eye cap that doesn't come out. It can get an infection. Jay, you could probably clarify this. This is a lot of layman's terms. When a snake sheds, there's actually a layer of air between its skin and the new skin and the old skin, and it's a microscopic layer, and it starts unraveling it, and it takes off the old skin. If that skin gets stuck there, one of the things that harbors bacteria is oxygen, moisture. Oh, you got a humid cage, you got air flowing through here, and you got this little cavity of between the old skin and the new skin that can get infected. It can rot. It can all of those things that just leads to a poor quality of life for the snake. So you want it to be able to get that skin off as conveniently as possible. And then this is what's the word, anthropomorphize, where you stick human. I would imagine it's uncomfortable to have the dry skin. I know for a fact up here in Minnesota, like my knuckles crack, and I never needed lotion in Florida. Man, I got lotion all the time. So you would want to avoid those conditions for the snake as well.
Do you like implore like active humidity control, or like
yeah?
How do you do that? I'm curious, because I work with a lot of HVAC systems, and we deal with like very specific climates. So I'm kind of curious how you would do it.
Well, I might need your help. So what I've found is, so coming from Florida, humidity wasn't a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the standard, and I actually don't use this, and I have my own reasons, I can get into it. But the substrate of choice is coconut husk, and coconut husk is good for a variety of reasons. But one of them is that it absorbs water and it maintains humidity. I don't like cocoa because it gets everywhere and it can stain the color. It has a brown, it makes essentially a T, and it can stain the snake, and when it sheds, it's bright colors again. But it gets everywhere, and it's also an overhead cost. Now, I would never sacrifice the conditions of the snake for overhead costs. You have to pay to do it right. Fine. But I have the time and I have the commitment. Part of why I changed the tubs twice a week, which I guarantee you most of the people in the audience think I'm psychotic for doing that. They would say, have your cocoa, do something called spot clean, where you pull out the poo and on you go. And again, in my mind, that is a bacterial hellscape. Again, that's restaurant stuff that I can't get over, and that's fine. And it's the standard. I'm not criticizing anybody. I'm saying for myself, I can't bring myself to do it. So I line my tubs with paper towels. That's right, Jeremy. Undisputed, undefeated heavyweight champion of T-shirts. This one right here. Not me, the shirt itself. I'm not heavyweight anything. I'm dragging on here, but so what I do is I spray the animals down twice a week. When I change the tubs, they're still wet from the sink, so I actually leave the surface tension water in there, and I put them back that way. So I have the time to go and do that through my snakes. And then you could see there's a little cylindrical something there on the shelf that I'm pointing at. That's a room humidifier. And right above it is the HVAC. And I'll tell you that room humidifier does nothing. I've tried it. It does. I don't know if it does anything. I let it go. It can't hurt anything. But as far as pumping in humidity, we would then get mold and that stuff in the walls. So we got to do it within the tub. There are spray systems that actually are more geared towards the terrarium pet community that will spray and mist. I don't use them. I don't use them in the racks. I do it by hand. But it's a constant monitor. I have these things stuck all around the room. I probably have 8 of them in this room. It tells me temperature and humidity. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So I have them at various heights. I have about a 3-degree swing from ceiling to floor in here with the fans off. So I turn the fans on and circulate the air. I have them off right now because of the microphone, but all of those things. And then that's a mini split, Mr. Cool mini split back there. efficient down to 4 degrees, which is great, except in Minnesota, we tumble below 4 degrees. So I have the oil register heater as well.
Yeah.
This conversation kind of reminds me of this article. It's from the Harvard Business Review, but it's an old article, but it's about something called analogous field solutions, which basically posits that you find the most novel ideas for your own industry if you take a few steps outside of your industry. So I think the example that they took was that construction workers were trying to reinforce their helmets to have better protection. And so instead of looking within their industry, they took a few steps out and started to engage skateboarders and people who use helmets in that arena, I guess. And they came up with the best ideas there. So it just kind of reminds me of that. Analogous field solutions is a really interesting article.
Well, and I do find, I mean, most people understandably don't see the connections, but the connections from the restaurant to this room and those standards in both places constantly runs through my mind. I mean, whether I'm ordering stock to par, managing inventory, profits and losses, margins, and then the health standards side of it, sanitation, cross-contamination mindset. All of that is it's directly relatable. So I really enjoy it that way.
Yeah. I do the same thing. I mean, the Jazz Club is a restaurant, but I came from pharmaceuticals, which is like FDA regulated, right? So same idea, just to probably a higher, more prosecutable level. And then
I don't get inspected here. Although in Florida, I did get inspected. We had to be licensed and inspected in Florida.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, you move to the restaurant industry. It's very similar. I mean, it's just a slightly different breed, but it's all the same. It's controlling your systems and controlling, being aware of what can go wrong and how you prevent it and how you maintain consistent processes. Yeah. So I think I hear when I've heard you talk about this, I'm like, yeah, it's right up my alley. I like that mindset.
Well, it was cool when I started to see how relatable it was, and I was like, I think I could do this at scale because it's what I've been doing at scale. The people that start a restaurant because they're a really good cook at home typically run into challenges and issues. And it's not that I root against them. There's a difference between business and cooking well at home. So one of those things is scale. So doing things at scale and from a manufacturing and productivity standpoint, and I'm looking at I have a commercial kitchen sink in my room as well. That's where I do all my dishes. People are like, how do you flip tubs all the time? I'm like, well, I got the right tool for it. I got a big sink over there, man. That's what we gotta do. And also, for the record, the comments are great examples of this. There are many ways to achieve many different goals. So whether it be cocoa, Shannon's talking about a sponge over the hot spot. There's many ways to get it done, and many ways to. It's sort of like there's a goal and a target. And how you get there, as long as it's caring well for the animals, it doesn't really matter. People like to debate and fight over things, but there's no need to. It's that end goal and reaching that end goal.
And it sounds like that's the fun of it, right? Like the end goal is definitely your goal, but like trying to figure out those little nuances for like how you might do it and how someone else might do it and how you can take what they do and tweak it to fit what you think might work better.
There's a sweet spot for it too, because there's people that I are customers and they'll be like, oh, it's great. I got a 150-gallon tank for this hatchling. And I'm like, your snake's not going to do well in that. You really shouldn't do that. And they're like, yeah, I know, but I could do it. And I'm like,
right.
Let's take it in baby steps and learn it. If you have 150 already, you're probably not going to put it in a 150-gallon tank. If you do, you're probably going to put 15 different micro sort of environments that will suit it the way that it needs to. So there is the fun of the experimentation, but then there's also like sometimes you got to rein people in, or you want to. It's not my job to rein people in, but I try and talk to them and say, look, for your sanity, the health of that snake, and the enjoyment of your investment, let's get back to some basics here and talk about the basic needs before we talk about the 150-gallon display that you as the pet owner are more interested in than the animal,
Right.
It sounds like Jay is closer to getting a snake than I am. Actually,
I'm liking this. This is good. We need to track this.
These are, by the way, these are much more intelligent questions than I usually pose. I'm usually like, "What does your wife think of this?" Or,
well, no, but that's the whole genesis of this show to me was, how does a reptile person talk to a non-reptile person, and what's like everyday life like? Because I have this daily fight. I'll meet somebody new. What do they ask immediately? Oh, what do you do? And it's like this equation. Do I tell them I'm a food and beverage consultant, or do I tell them I'm a rodent breeder and a reptile breeder? And so, like, when I went to the bank and I wanted to start my business account here in town, and it's a small town, the lady was mesmerized. It was fantastic. She's terrified of snakes. She has no interest in it. She was incredibly curious, which is great. However, now when I walk into the bank, she comes running up and she goes, "This is the snake breeder. This is him. That's the snake breeder guy. Do you guys need snakes? You guys want? This is him. This is Adam. He's the snake breeder." And I'm like, and she's like, "He's new in town. He just moved here." And I'm like, "Yeah, maybe everybody in town doesn't want to envision my, in their mind, the den of serpents that they think that I have, like, let's keep this down for a minute here."
Gee. So we are at the end of the show. That went so quickly. It went so quickly. And I got to say, I was a little bit nervous. I don't know if you could tell. I was a little nervous. It was worlds colliding.
Colliding.
I have a theory.
What's that?
I have a theory that when, not you personally, but when you're nervous, it's generally because you care. If you didn't care, you wouldn't be nervous. If you were like, "I don't care, we'll just crash and burn, whatever, nothing to be nervous about." So that's cool. I appreciate that, and I think that's a cool sign.
Yeah.
Worlds colliding. Can we have a quick moment of silence? I've watched your show a few times. You guys heard that Crazy Joe Davola passed away? Did you guys
oh no! Did he?
Oh man,
sad.
That's sad. When did that happen?
I don't know. It just popped in my feed this morning, and I was like, "Oh, these guys talk about Seinfeld."
I couldn't believe it. We're forever searching for something that we can watch, and our son is 11, and like, while we're eating dinner is like family TV time, so it's usually like Survivor or Big Brother or America's Got Talent or whatever, not just junk, just pop TV, and there's none of those on right now, and so we have nothing. And my wife, I had no idea she switched on Seinfeld. I was like, "Ooh, I like this." So we're watching it, and it's the dry cleaner episode where the dry cleaner is wearing Jerry's jacket, and then his wife is wearing his mom's fur. There's a scene where the lady is wearing the mom's jacket, the fur coat, and she's eating a hot dog out on the street. And there's another guy standing right next to her, and I couldn't believe it. My son goes, "That's the guy. That's him." And I was like, what are you talking about? And he goes, "That's one of the wet bandits from Home Alone. He was right there at the hot dog stand." 11-year-old is nailing like Seinfeld, like crossover extras before, just talk about worlds. I was like, my boy, all right, we're going to watch some Seinfeld now. This is good.
Nice. That's impressive.
I was like, how does he... the stuff that kids pick up on is unreal. Like I've learned that, but that was another example of that. So
I was new to this house, and Aiden was maybe 4 years old, and for some reason I thought it was appropriate to put on Seinfeld. I thought, this is not, and it was the episode, and I walked out of the room, and I realized what episode it was, and it was an episode that Elaine says that when she was in a relationship with Jerry, that she faked.
Yeah.
Fake.
So fake. And I walk into the room, and I've never seen him so focused. That day. So he's watching, and I go, "Oh, so," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get I'm gonna, I've irrevocably hurt this boy or whatever, and you don't pick up on stuff when you're a kid, and you just like make it make sense. So I said, so what did they say? Because I wanted to hear his interpretation, and he said, well, she was saying that their friendship was fake when they were friends. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly right. You got it.
So that episode last night was also the episode where George hires the secretary. He's gotten to a point where he's allowed to have a secretary, and he hires Ada, and they quickly commence to not faking. And George goes to Mr. Steinbrenner to plead for a raise for her, because in the heat of the moment, his talk was, I'm going to get you a raise. And George Steinbrenner gives her a $25,000 raise. And this is all going on with my son watching. I'm like, this is delicious pork chop we're having for dinner tonight, isn't this? This is a succulent, well-seasoned piece of meat right here that I picked up, man.
I also have a 10-year-old, and we watch things.
Nice.
And I don't know if you guys have done this, but you've watched something, but you haven't watched it in 15 years. And you're like, we're going to watch this. This is going to be fun. And then you're getting through it. Everything's funny. He's starting to get into it. He's enjoying it. You're like, yes, we're enjoying something collectively together. And then right before it happens, you realize, oh, this is a completely inappropriate thing that's about to happen. And I usually go, hey, how about the Red Sox? What happened with them? I'll throw a question, and he'll like get mad. He's, Dad, don't distract me. And I'll try to like lower the volume a little bit or something.
That's when coughing comes into play. You go, oh, something in my throat here. I don't know.
Yeah, we've sort of resigned ourselves to, and we've always been really honest and upfront with Charlie. If he asks a question, we answer it. So like at least he is in that awkward like tween stage where like he knows but he doesn't know, and the last thing he wants is to have that conversation with mom and dad. So like we just all collectively silently don't laugh and wait for it to pass, and then we go on with dinner. It's good. Very healthy, I think.
Yeah, let's not talk about things.
Well,
thank
Joe,
you.
Joe, did you make a comment under my name? Is that how that works? How did Proper Royals?
Whenever I comment, it's under Proper Royals. I don't know.
Okay, cool. All right. I was like, not only is my name being used, it is being. We are talking some good meat there. Yeah. Duroc, acorn fat. You got to feed those pigs acorns. That's how it gets so delicious.
Mm-hmm.
The Duroc.
That's what we had in
North Carolina. You're right. Yeah. We went to a restaurant called Kreative. It was fantastic.
I thought we had it down in Daytona with Shannon.
We did, with Shannon. That's right. Yes, we did. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Jay. We're now 17 minutes over time, but thank you for joining us.
The people what they want, we got up to 27 viewers today. That's pretty good, man. I got to say, for a winging it episode experimentation, it went well today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we do want to hear, should we do this regularly? Like once a month, once a quarter? What do you think? Just let us know. And again, it's always great to be in on these conversations. It gives me great insight, and I'm just happy to be here, and I'm happy that another person was welcomed as well.
Of course, I was going to say unofficially. Officially, I'm one of the show creators. Jay, the door's open anytime, especially if Joe can't show up. I would nominate you to be the go-to backup co-host. I like this. This was a good chemistry all around.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. Be happy to join. And thanks so much for having me. That was fun.
My pleasure. I feel like this is a little shade from Shannon. At least it meant something to Joe. Yeah, it was special.
All
Very nice. Very good. Very good. All right, guys. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Audience, thanks so much. Jay, truly, I'll joke aside, it's been a pleasure. Come hang out. Stick around in the green room for just a second. We can chat after there. I'm going to get us out of here. Everybody, we'll see y'all same time, same place next week. Thanks for hanging out. Cheers.